I'm Sal Henley and we're back in the Slimming World kitchen, and I'm bringing to you today the Taste the Sunshine cookbook from Slimming World. We have fantastic picnic recipes, barbecue, salads, everything you want for the summer. And I'm going to do these coffee rub steaks with char-grilled potatoes. It's going to be delicious. I'm going to start off with the potatoes because they take a little bit of time. So I've taken 1 kilo of new potatoes and I've part-boiled them so they're just cooked. And then I've drained them and I've cut them in half lengthways. So you get the longer side basically, so there's more that we can char grill. I put some seasoning on them and then I put a little bit of low-calorie spray. Now, this is actually a barbecue recipe, so I'm going to try and replicate a barbecue in here with a char-grilled pan. So I'm going to just put, say, half the potatoes on here and do them in batches. But you want to put the flat side down first, and we're going to char-grill them so they get a bit of extra toasty flavour. Now, if you're barbecuing at home, if you're using coals, you just want to wait until the coals have gone grey. And depending on how well spread out your coals are, means where the heat will be. Generally, the heat is more concentrated in the middle, and as you move the food to the outside, there's less heat. So you can really use it like a hob. If you wanted to, you can put the griddle pan onto the barbecue itself, or if your barbecue's got a small mesh, then you could actually put them directly onto that. So we're going to leave those to sort of cook away while I make the coffee rub for the steak, which is exciting. How many of you had a coffee rub on a steak? I doubt many. The reason we're putting coffee on it is adds a real lovely smokiness to it, and it brings out the flavour of the steak. It's sort of got like a savoury umami flavour to it. So I've got a little bowl here with a tiny bit of salt in there, and then I've got 2 tablespoons of ground coffee that goes in, and then 1 tablespoon of smoked paprika. Then we have 1 level teaspoon of sweetener and 1 teaspoon of coarse ground pepper. And then half a teaspoon of onion granules and half a teaspoon of garlic granules. And then that is going to add a lovely sort of yummy, savoury note to it. Then what you want to do is just get a spoon, give that a good stir. And then steaks, let's talk about steaks. When you get some steaks, pull them out of the fridge at least half an hour to an hour before you start to want to cook them. They want to come back up to room temperature, and that means that your steak's going to cook really evenly. I've blotted those with a bit of kitchen towel to take any excess moisture off them. I've also, you'll see, cut any visible fat off there. The steak I'm using is a sirloin steak, but you could easily use something like a rump or a ribeye or even a fillet steak if you wanted to. Then what you want to do is, and it's probably easier just to use your hands, is just to sprinkle this all over the steaks. Now I'm only going to cook 2 today, but just to show you, this is the sort of full recipe. So I'm going to just put it on one side at this stage, and then I'll put some more on when we're cooking it in the pan. There we go. We're going to check on the potatoes quickly, and I'm going to turn on the frying pan here. Because I obviously don't have a barbecue, I'm doing it on the hob instead. If you've got a griddle pan, another one at home, that would be perfect as well. Let's just have a look at these. Oh yeah, so these are all going lovely and grilled now, so you can turn those over. Obviously, like I was saying, the heat's more concentrated in the middle as it would be on a barbecue. And then we will turn those over. And it makes a lovely kind of summer dish, nice alternative just to green leaves, to have a bit more body with the potatoes. And we've roasted some red peppers that I'll tell you about in a minute. So let's get those all done. Maybe shift the ones on the outside into the middle so they get char grilled as well, like so. Then we are going to heat this pan up until it gets quite nice and hot, sort of medium to high. You don't want it so hot that it burns the steak straight away, because we're going to cook this steak for about 1.5 minutes. I've even got a timer. Now you probably think, oh, I cook for a living, why would you time it? I do genuinely time how I cook my steaks. I always do 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes either side for medium rare. These steaks are quite thin. I normally go a little bit thicker. I'm just going to pat that rub on there. And like I said, we're just going to do 2 steaks. So that pan's lovely and hot now. I can just feel it. If you put your hand about 1 inch away from the actual surface. You can feel the heat. I'm going to spritz that with some low-calorie cooking spray using a non-stick frying pan. Then we're going to put that in there and it will start to sizzle. So I'm going to start the timer like so. And then I'm going to just turn these. And they're all looking really lovely and charred, so I can get the next ones in. Like so. So I'm going to add the rest of the potatoes to this pan here. And again, just spread those out. Now, other vegetables you could do like this would be lovely strips of courgette. Use a peeler to peel them nice and thick. You could put spring onions onto a barbecue, asparagus, even gem lettuce. Cut that into quarters and barbecue that. Makes a really delicious salad. I know you're thinking, char-grilled lettuce, a bit weird. So there's actually a recipe in Taste the Sunshine cookbook for a char-grilled cabbage with blue cheese dressing. You could do the same with the gem lettuce, quarters of that, and then barbecue it with that same dressing on there. And then we've got 3, 2, 1 seconds. Beep, 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 beep. So now we're going to turn it over, like so. And what you want to do, if you wanted more of that seasoning on top of it, you could have put it on that other side if you wanted before turning it over. And then make sure that you put the timer back on for 1 minute 30. And there we go. Now, back to the vegetables. I'm going to quickly turn those over. So red peppers are also amazing on the barbecue. You just take 4 red peppers and you roast them on there and you just keep them whole and turn them with your tongs until they're lovely and blackened. And I did that earlier, but I did it in a griddle pan actually. And then what you do is you put them into a bowl and cover it with cling film. And then what happens is you get a lovely sort of steamy environment where you'll see that here's the pepper. Now you'll notice there's only one in there because I've already prepared the other one. And that is lovely and char-grilled. It's dripping loads of juice. And that's going to go with the potatoes. So I've already done some of the peppers here, but what you want to do, it's a bit of a mucky job, but don't worry about it. Ooh. What you want to do is just literally peel off the skin. Oh my goodness, it's all going on. Stop that. Let's get that and take that off. Now make sure you put that onto a board that's a clean board. And then we can turn all of that off because those potatoes are char-grilled as well. Going to get rid of that. And we're going to leave those to rest there. Let's bring this pepper here. So what you can do is you can use a knife if you wanted to and sort of cut away from you like so to get the skin off. And where it's more black, it just easily peels off. See? And by covering it with cling film, it creates that steam sort of bath, so that's what lifts the skin off. It doesn't have to be perfect if you don't want it to be. So there you go. You can roughly do it like that. You just want that sort of toasty flavour from the barbecue. Then what you want to do is take a knife, and probably the best way is to sort of cut off the cheeks. You're going to have a lot of liquid in there, so you might want to just lose that. And then cut that like that. And then we're just going to cut it into strips. Like so. Oops. And then that is going to be scattered over all the potatoes as well. So it's pretty much time for assembly. So layer up your potatoes with your peppers. Obviously I've only cooked 2 steaks, but this is enough to serve 4. And then we're going to add some more of these over the top. How pretty does that look? And I'm going to put a few fresh herbs over it as well. And then some more peppers. Like so. And then I've got some nice basil here, so you could just put a few of those ripped over the top if you wanted. I always love fresh herbs. It really just transforms a dish and gives it pops of colour. There we go. Then we've rested the beef a little bit. If I had more time, I would try and rest it for probably 5 to 10 minutes. What we're going to do is put some salad on the plate. So I've got some lovely sort of salad leaves here. Cucumber, I love the crunch of cucumber against the steaks. And then some red onion. You can't have steak without some onion. Delicious. And then I'm going to put a few of these last ones on the plate here with the peppers. There we go. Put the other two in there for the rest of the party. And then peppers dotted in there. It's already looking good before we've even got the steak on it. Again, I'm just going to put a little garnish on there. It's not in the recipe, but herbs are great. Chives would be really good with this. Parsley as well. Then you just take the steak, and I've just put, as I said, the rub on one side, but you could put it on both if you wanted to. Now, you can cut it into slices if you wanted to. Look at that, how yummy and juicy is that? If you follow that method, your steak's going to be perfectly cooked every time. And then we can lay that on there. And then the final flourish is a lovely little bit of thyme and garlic that goes on top. So I'm going to wipe the pan out that had the steaks in. And then I'm going to just take 3 cloves of garlic that are chopped, and then 1 teaspoon of either fresh thyme, or I'm using half a teaspoon of dried thyme if you're finding it difficult to get hold of. And again, just give it a little bit of low-calorie cooking spray. And then put your garlic in. And we're just going to cook that until it's nice and brown with the thyme. And then what this does is just add a little bit of piquancy to the top of the steaks. But if you don't want to do it, you can leave that off. Keep moving it around so that it doesn't burn. And then before you know it, it will just start to caramelize. So there we go. That's just sort of browned off a little bit. So you can either put that on a little dish on the table or just use it to top off your steaks. So there you go, coffee rubbed steaks with char-grilled potatoes. How delicious. In fact, I'm going to have a little cook's treat over here. Look at that, perfectly cooked. This is really good. You've got to try this at home. Delicious.